Someone talks down to you today. Maybe it's a coworker who explains something you already know. Maybe it's a boss who corrects you in front of others. Maybe it's a friend who smiles just a little too wide when they point out your mistake. And even though you know it shouldn't bother you, it does. It gets under your skin in a way that's hard to explain. You replay it later. You think of all the things you should have said. You feel something between anger and shame, and you're not entirely sure why. Here's the thing. That reaction isn't a weakness. It's ancient. And once you understand what's actually happening when someone patronizes you, you'll never respond to it the same way again. Your brain has been running the same social software for roughly 200,000 years. Long before offices, long before performance reviews, long before passive-aggressive emails, your ancestors lived in small groups where social rank determined everything. Who ate first? Who mated? Who survived long enough to pass on their genes? Status wasn't a luxury. It was survival. Researchers like the late anthropologist Robin Dunbar, who spent decades studying primates' social groups, found that hierarchy management is one of the most cognitively demanding tasks a social animal performs. Your brain dedicates enormous resources to tracking where you stand relative to others. Every interaction gets filtered through one silent question. Am I going up or going down? When someone talks down to you, your brain reads it as a status attack, not a mild inconvenience. A threat. The same ancient alarm system that once warned your ancestors about predators now fires when a coworker patronizes you in a meeting room. The emotional sting you feel isn't an overreaction. It's your nervous system doing exactly what it was designed to do. But here's where it gets interesting. The person doing the patronizing is also running that same software. And in most cases, they're not doing it from a position of genuine confidence. They're doing it from fear. Psychologist Leon Festinger developed the theory of social comparison in the 1950s, and the core idea is simple. Humans constantly evaluate themselves by comparing themselves to others. When someone feels uncertain about their own competence, their own intelligence, their own standing, they feel an almost involuntary pull to establish superiority. Talking down to someone else is one of the fastest ways to feel taller without actually growing. Think about that for a moment. The person who over-explains something you already understand isn't doing it because they know more than you. They're doing it because some part of their brain is afraid that you might know more than them. The condescension is a defense mechanism. It's armor disguised as confidence. This reframe matters because it changes everything about how you respond. When you understand that patronizing behavior is rooted in insecurity rather than power, you stop treating it like an attack you need to survive. You start treating it like information. Someone just told you, without meaning to, that they feel threatened by you. That's not a reason to fight back. That's a reason to stay calm. Staying calm under social pressure is one of the hardest things a human being can do. Your body wants to react. Your jaw tightens. Your pulse quickens. Your mind starts loading a response. Psychologist Daniel Goleman, who introduced the concept of emotional intelligence to mainstream audiences, called this the amygdala hijack. The emotional brain fires before the rational brain has a chance to catch up. And the moment you react from that hijacked state, you've already lost the exchange. Not because the other person has beaten you, but because you've handed them exactly what they were looking for. A reaction. Proof that they got to you. Evidence that the status attack landed. The most powerful response to a patronizing comment is often the one that uses the least energy. A calm nod. A neutral, thanks. A pause that stretches just long enough to make the other person aware that you noticed what they did without giving them anything to work with. This is not passivity. This is precision. You are choosing your terrain. You are refusing to fight on their field. There's a concept in Stoic philosophy that maps almost perfectly onto this situation. The Stoics called it the dichotomy of control. The 2nd century Roman emperor and philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about the gap between what happens to you and how you choose to respond. He faced senators who mocked him, military commanders who undermined him, and courtiers who whispered behind his back. His answer was always the same. You cannot control what someone says to you. You can only control what you do with it. When you hold on to that gap, the space between the condescending remark and your response, you are exercising the most sophisticated form of social power available to you. You are demonstrating that your sense of self does not depend on their approval, their tone, or their attempt to position themselves above you. That composure, by the way, is exactly what patronizing people cannot handle. Because here's the dynamic they're counting on. They talk down to you. You react. The reaction confirms in their mind that they are above you. That's the loop they want. When you refuse to react, the loop breaks, and they are left standing in the awkward silence of their own move, with nothing to show for it. You can also choose to respond, and respond effectively, without losing your composure. The key is to stay curious rather than combative. If someone explains something you already know, you can say, calmly and without edge, "Yes, I'm familiar with that." Not with sarcasm, not with heat, just as a statement of fact that closes the patronizing gap without escalating. If someone corrects you in front of others, you can acknowledge the correction neutrally, then follow up privately if needed. If someone consistently treats you like a subordinate when you're not, you can name the dynamic directly, quietly, and without drama. Researcher Breen Brown has written about the difference between fitting in and belonging. Fitting in means shrinking yourself to match what others expect. Belonging means showing up fully and trusting that your presence has value without requiring anyone's permission. Patronizing behavior is, at its core, an invitation to fit in by accepting a smaller version of yourself. Every time you respond with composure, clarity, and calm self-possession, you are choosing belonging over shrinking. That choice compounds over time. People around you notice how you handle being talked down to, not in a dramatic way, not in a way anyone announces, but behavior patterns get read and remembered. The person who stays calm when disrespected builds a reputation for inner strength that no amount of manufactured confidence can replicate. And the person who patronizes others? Over time, people quietly stop trusting them, stop confiding in them, stop wanting them in the room. Status games are real. Hierarchy is real. Your emotional reaction to being talked down to is real, and it is ancient, and is not a character flaw. But the game you're being invited into, the react encounter, the status sparring, that is optional. You always had the choice not to play. And the next time someone talks down to you, and someone will, you'll remember this. Not as a script, not as a clever line, but as a quiet understanding of what's actually happening in that moment. They are afraid. You are not required to help them feel better about that fear by pretending to be less than you are. Someone talked down to you today, and now you know exactly what they were doing, and exactly what you don't have to do in return.